episode of Tower Duo. I'm Connor, and with me today, as always, is Andrew, if you couldn't tell from the overlay that is surrounding us right now. And today we're going to be talking about villain motivations and whether or not they're good and bad, and just, I guess, how cool or lame they are. We're just going to go in generational order. Starting off with Gen 1, we have Team Rocket. And Andrew, what do you know about Team Rocket?
So, because it's the first evil team, the concept isn't really developed yet, and it doesn't have to be a very specific goal. So, primarily, Team Rocket's goal is just steal Pokemon and create and control Mewtwo
Mm-hmm.
and use that to take over the world, potentially.
Or something.
Or something like that.
Yeah,
Essentially,
I don't even.
that's what they
I
want.
don't think they want to take over the world, do they? I thought they just want to profit.
Yeah. I think they just want to get rich. I don't think they really want to take over the world.
Mm.
Because if
Yeah.
you start with the first one wants to take over the world, where do you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Team Rocket though is kind of just they're so okay. A lot of the later generations kind of lay it they're evil and they want to take over the world and everything, but it's they do so in kind of a subtle way. But Team Rocket doesn't care about being subtle at all. They literally just straight up just take people's Pokemon, they steal things from them, they rob buildings. like they are so far from comic relief
Yep.
that it kind of puts all the other teams to shame in a way. Except for maybe Team Plasma, but we can cover that one later.
Yeah, definitely there was less sensitivity, if you will, to how violent something in a kids game can be. And so I don't think that even though their goals might not be as ambitious, um according to the manga, they have infiltrated the Pokemon League with it's either
Whoa.
3 or 4 out of 8 gym leaders, and they have
Okay.
whips, and they definitely have a hierarchy. They have several admins, so they're
Mhm.
definitely well established. So we're taking advantage of the fact that there was almost no law enforcement in Kanto
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
Johto.
Yeah. I don't know. It's Team Rocket definitely seems like the most realistic evil team. If Pokemon would exist, you would see a lot of things like Team Rocket. But I don't think you would see anything like, say, Team Galactic happening. But
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
could
feel
be
like I
wrong.
feel like stuff like that would maybe get more attention and enough attention to get shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like maybe Team Rocket is strategically trying to commit crimes that are big enough to make them rich, but not so big that they get immediately noticed and put on watch lists and shut down.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Because they're the evil teams that fall into a couple categories. The lowest category is they're just annoying. Above that would be criminal activity, which is what Team Rocket falls into, and then there would be
Yeah.
um, large scale by necessity terrorism, and
Yeah.
and that's where we get into some of
That,
the
that
middle
makes sense. Yeah.
generations. So
Uh-huh.
in terms of how terrible to not less bad their actions are, I would maybe put them as sort of middle tier.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Like,
think
yeah,
we
I
need
would agree
to
with you.
have
Like, they're
more.
not
Yeah.
like they're definitely doing evil things,
Hmm.
and they're ruining childhoods by
Yeah.
stealing people's Pokemon. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know. I think that's just kind of like weirdly funny to think about. They just like take people's, just like they take children's Pokemon.
Yep. That's what they do.
I don't know. I don't know why I think that's funny, but um, but yeah, yeah, they're not a terrorist level threat,
Right.
unless you consider like Silphco a terrorist kind of thing, which I mean you kind of could because they did take over the entire building.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's their worst thing, and then of
Well,
course
oh yeah,
that's
and Goldenrod Radio Tower. They took over that
yes.
building too. Can't forget about Johto.
Yes. So that's essentially like the first two. See, what's interesting is we went from one evil team across two regions to now one evil team per game
Yeah.
in Generation 3. So there's like four times as many evil teams if you look at it that way.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's two rival groups, and that goes down in Generation 3.
Oh yeah.
So that is, I guess, one of the ones that's more interesting because you have a choice in terms of which side you support,
Mhm.
and with both of them being very extreme and very dangerous sides to support.
Yeah.
That said, we are making this video right after a hurricane has devastated a large part of this country.
Yep.
And
Like, okay, what were like either of the sides even thinking? Like, it's so weird to me that they get exactly what they want, and they're like, wait a minute, I didn't think this out very well. Like, it's like, oh yeah, here's what we gotta do. We've gotta reduce the land mass. And so he recruits Kyogre, like Aqua recruits Kyogre. And so they reduce the land mass, and they say, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
yeah, at the end they do come around to like, okay, we're taking too extreme of a measure. Here's the thing though. Team Aqua's goal is to create massive amounts of flooding, see which city is going to be the next Atlantis, and go from there.
Yeah.
Team Magma's goal is land reclamation, with the potentially substantial side effect of oceanic habitat destruction.
Yeah, so like kind of both sides of the spectrum have very little consideration for wildlife and environments, is what you're saying.
That's definitely true. Their environmental records are going to be terrible.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I feel like Generation 3 kind of lays a groundwork for Generation 4.
Okay.
With like, so they have this idea, and it's like it's kind of a commendable idea, like, you know, the water. So people of Team Aqua say, okay, there's too much land. It's kind of, you know, people are hurting the environments of the fish in the sea, so there shouldn't be as much land. And Team Magma says, well, no, there's a lot more water than there is land. There needs to be more land so that it can be established and everything. And so it's two pretty um, two points of view that are commendable, but then they find a solution to the problem that is so abstract that it it doesn't really solve, like, it solves the problem, but at such a high cost that it's not worth it at all.
Yeah, so I think that maybe the executives on both sides really don't know what they're doing, and but I think that, like, I'm coming at this whole video sort of from the perspective of, like, how recruitable are these organizations? You know,
Yeah.
like if I'm just some random person, how low do I have to stoop before I decide to fill out that Team Magma application? You know, like, how far gone do I have to be from, like, regular law abiding society?
Yeah.
And I think for Team Magma it's not very far, because, like, while it can be a political tool in the case of, like, China, like, land reclamation is a normal thing that happens in the real world. And
Yeah.
if we think about, like, Pokemon biodiversity, there are a lot more Pokemon species that live on land than in the sea. And the sea is
Yeah.
mostly
Yeah.
just
And,
water
like,
types.
not only that, like, as humans, we are biased towards the land.
That is also true.
So, like, yeah, so we're going to want to, like, get as much land as we can. And I mean, it's kind of a weird way of thinking, especially for someone like just an average person, like you were saying. Like, it is kind of a drastic step for them to want to join an organization like Team Magma, but I feel like it's a lot more reasonable than wanting to join Team Aqua.
That is definitely true. I would even go so far as to say that that Team Aqua is probably a criminal organization from the beginning, I feel like. But I feel like Team Magma could plausibly be legal until they go and take their extreme measures, because they're just a company that's going to basically make Hoenn more like the Netherlands. And they're just a private company trying to do
Yeah.
that. And then just like a lot of real world private companies, they're using questionable practices, and they're trying to go too far for the sake of profit, probably.
Yeah.
So that is
Yeah,
that
no, I agree with you.
yeah.
Like, I feel like, like, I guess going into Team Aqua, like, as I said, I feel like the beliefs that it was founded on are kind of make sense, but, like, the applications of those beliefs are definitely illegal.
That is true. And I think that yeah, attempting to harness the power of a legendary Pokemon which you know to exist sounds smart until you try to do it. And
Yeah.
although if they had actually just used a Master Ball and then
True.
given it a moveset
What
that
are
was
these
like
people doing?
good and useful, then what's interesting is that would have been considered perfectly legal. Seeing
Yeah,
as
wait
you're
a minute.
allowed to bring those Pokemon into the league and no one bats an eye at it. So
Huh.
so if they had actually, like, it's weird because it's like if they only go part of the way through their plan, then it's illegal, but if they go fully through their plan, then it somehow goes back to legal.
Yeah.
Like just
Well,
based on
okay,
like
okay. So I remember reading something
Yep.
in Diamond and Pearl. So Cyrus had these logs that you can read through, and in one of the logs he says that if he were to catch a legendary Pokemon in a Pokeball, that it wouldn't be as strong. Like, for some reason, and I don't think he specifies why, but it's not as powerful, and he wouldn't be able to harness all the energy that he would need. So I don't know if maybe Team Aqua and Team Magma knew this. I doubt it, seeing how little they thought through their plan, but maybe they knew it. But maybe they just decided catching in the Pokeball that wouldn't be strong enough to do what they needed.
So, well, but how true is that necessarily? Because any other Pokemon will be stronger if it's owned by a trainer versus if it's just a wild Pokemon. So maybe that could be the case. The other thing that brings up is why are you allowed to catch whatever legendary it may be in the first place if it is actually basically the god of the land, the sea, or time and space, because we're talking about like generations 3 and 4 right now. If it is actually that, should anyone be allowed to own that who is not either the dictator of the entire region or like okay, post game maybe it would make more sense because you're the champion, you're the best trainer there is, but even so I feel like having command of the thing that has command of the entire ocean, let's just say like Kyogre, I feel like that's maybe more power than you'd want to give any one person.
You're definitely right. Here, wait, let me see if I can find the log that I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, so while you're looking for that, it does raise an interesting question about like basically the goal the one of your goals as protagonist of Ruby and Sapphire is, instead of a not very responsible adult owning and controlling a legendary Pokemon, it's you who have had a couple of months tops, like if we're thinking about how long a Pokemon adventure would actually take, a couple of months tops of experience owning and controlling a legendary Pokemon.
That seems about right, yeah.
Yeah. Just which is just perfectly acceptable, obviously.
Yeah. All right. Well, I found the quote. It was actually
okay.
Pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
Wait. So there's this computer in Team Galacticus takes Q, and so Cyrus writes this in the computer. According to Mist, the Pokemon created Sinnoh with its full power. However, capturing the Pokemon with the Pokeball prevents it from using its full power. But with the red chain, the Pokemon can be shackled and its power can be used without restraint.
Okay. So that's talking about specifically Arceus then? Because of the Pokemon that created Sinnoh, therefore Arceus. Okay. So maybe it's just mythical Pokemon that applies to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like, it's super vague. He doesn't explain it at all.
Right. Well, speaking of Sinnoh, speaking of Cyrus, let's talk Team Galactic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so as you've probably learned from me by now, I know a lot about Diamond and Pearl. And Team Galactic is, very interesting. And I've given this quite a lot of thought. So obviously Cyrus is in charge of Team Galactic, and he's really the only person in the entire operation who knows what's going on. Like even his admins don't really understand what Cyrus wants to do, but just it isn't exactly explained why he has so many followers. But the best reason that I can think of is just because he looks like he knows what he's talking about. And again, it's like I was saying with Team Aqua and Team Magma. His beliefs are all, relatively well founded, and so people buy into the beliefs, but they don't really consider what needs to be done in order to make those beliefs true. So you could kind of compare Team Galactic to a cult, which I don't know. That's the best metaphor that I have, because it definitely feels, to me at least, very similar to what you would see in a modern day cult. I don't know.
Team Plasma is the cult.
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like they're both kind of cults.
Yeah.
Like,
I was gonna say maybe even more so.
Plasma is just a cult with a much better fashion sense.
You said which one has the better fashion sense?
Team Plasma. Well, at least Neo Team Plasma. I don't know about normal Team Plasma. They're like dressed like knights or something.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to like original Team Plasma.
Yeah.
They're not that different. So why don't you give our viewers just a good understanding of exactly what the goals of you see it's interesting because we know about like the predecessor Team Galactic, and that they're definitely good. So see if we can fill in what we think the Galaxy team wants.
Okay, well,
and
so
and maybe in between how the organization goes bad. I'm sort of assuming that it starts out good and goes bad, and it's not just like branches off to something bad.
Well, I know. Well, obviously, as I said, Cyrus is in charge of the organization. I don't remember ever hearing that he founded it, which would definitely make sense. I know he grew up in Sunny Shore City and had a very troubled childhood, where he just didn't seem to be able to connect with other people very well, if I remember right. And so basically he came to this conclusion that the human spirit is incomplete and therefore shouldn't exist, and that a world without a human spirit is like a perfect, like an ideal world. And so obviously he doesn't tell everyone this. Like he tells them like, hey, the human spirit's incomplete and we need to fix it. We need to improve the world, is what he tells to all of his grunts. But he doesn't really tell them like, hey, we need to utterly destroy this world and make a new one where there is no spirit. So he doesn't go as far as to tell them that, but that's what his plans are. So he kind of uses all of his grunts, all of his manpower, all of his admins to get to the ultimate goal. And they, multiple times throughout the story, they tell you like, hey, I don't really understand what's going on here, but I trust Cyrus. I trust the leader.
So do you maybe think that this is the kind of thing like let's say like a communist revolution, for example, where people think, oh yeah, we're gonna fix our country's economic problems by taking control of the economy, and then the dictator comes and they're like, oh, this is bad. This is really bad because I might die if I say the slightest thing that's out of line with what the leader wants.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
So like I could see like back in the days of Hisui, like like it's a popular legal organization, similar to how like before a before an extremist party comes into power, they might be just a perfectly legal, if far left or right group, and it's just like okay, they have the right to protest and speak up, and it's like okay, I can see how someone would go from normal to slightly radicalized to more radicalized, and so maybe your player character in Legends Arceus is one of the early members of something that looks good at the time, but goes down a dark path. Like I'm thinking, like the kind of person who would have been in the like definitely not like the same type of person, but like a similar mindset to like the kind of person who joins the SDP in Germany in like the 20s or something, like before they turn into the Nazi party. Back when it's just another political party.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. And like the thing, like it's definitely, I feel like it's probably, it might not even be like tilting towards radical at all. Like maybe just once Cyrus gets into control, that's kind of where it starts to go downhill.
Yeah, so he just works his way up and then imposes his own vision, and everything breaks apart.
Yeah, so at that point, the course of Team Galactic kind of could have changed, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we don't really know what the motives of the Galactic, whatever it's called, Team Galaxy, is going to be in the Hisui region, because the game hasn't come out yet. But yeah, we know that at some point in time, Cyrus took control. It might have already been going in the direction that Cyrus wanted to take it, or he may have just totally just put it off course with his, I don't know, his good speaking skills. I'm not sure.
It seems like there's a couple things that we know about Hisui at this point. First of all, and the Galaxy team at this point. First of all, it seems like Cylene is an ancestor of Cyrus. So maybe it's the kind of thing where it's like leadership.
Wait, who's Cylene?
The woman that is like the second in command in the trailer. Okay. So maybe it's the kind of thing where like power gets passed through the family, and this is the generation, like present day is the generation where as a result of that things go especially poorly. And the other thing is that the Galaxy team is pretty much like research and development at this point. They're trying to like industrialize and modernize the region pretty much, from the trailers that we have.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. They do want to put together the Pokedex and everything.
Yeah.
And that professor who gives you your starter might also be linked to it, but we don't really have any confirmation on that, I don't think.
I do not believe so. So they're definitely trying to make the very nebulous a better world. At that time, it was establish the Pokemon League and research the Pokedex and that sort of thing. And then maybe once they accomplish those things, they get more ambitious and more ambitious, while simultaneously getting more ridiculous, and to the point where those with like actual like political power say enough is enough, and it gets banned, and it just goes underground. But not underground.
Well, the thing with Team Galactic, like in Diamond and Pearl, is that it's definitely not really happening undercover. Like they have giant buildings. They have a giant headquarters, and then they have like a smaller base.
Yep.
And then they have like operations where where they invade people's property and
Yeah.
take them captive. And but we don't need to talk about those.
In a world where it is apparently legal to enter anyone's house without forewarning or permission, you just walk in and see if they have an item that you may or may not want. I think that we in the real world see it as less okay than I think people in the Pokemon world see it, because like if that's the standard that they're going by, then Team Galactic's building, they just own it because they physically have the staff there to run it. Okay, then they own it, I guess. Maybe property laws are just that relaxed there, which I'm kind of I'm kind of concluding, because
Yeah.
everything seems to be pretty relaxed and throw.
Yeah, and I mean, people in the cities are like, hey, like, I can't believe that this giant building is here that's being run by an evil organization. But it's not like there's any
Yeah.
law enforcement or anything that really
Yeah.
enforces that.
That is true. So that's another thing that we've sort of touched on a little bit, but it's really about like, are these illegal organizations, or are they just illegal organizations that eventually do illegal things?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like that, because like I can say, I really don't like what Amazon as a company is doing, so I can say, who would want to be in Seattle with the evil megacorp Amazon, just
Okay.
sitting right there,
But
for example.
here's my question. You don't like what Amazon is doing, but is Amazon taking over alternative energy sources and taking the people in control of these alternative energy sources captive until they get enough energy that they can do something with
Not yet.
it? Not yet.
Well, I'm sure that we'll learn a lot more about Team Galactic in the future. So maybe now would be a good time to move on to next one. So Team Plasma is really the reason that I wanted to make this video, because it's the most, I say it's the most controversial one out there,
Yeah.
because I think that the goal is to convince the player character to, if not form a completely equal compromise, to at least see the other side, and also for Team Plasma to, again, if not form a completely even compromise, to at least see the other side of having the ability to capture Pokemon and have them battle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so definitely, like, I've never played through Black 1 and White 1, but I've heard a lot about the games, and man, like, Team Plasma really seems to be, like, the only evil team who is really right. Like, maybe not right necessarily, but they've definitely got a point. And they make it very obvious to the player, like, hey, just chucking Pokeballs at Pokemon and just having them follow your every command really isn't, like, morally in the right, because it's like you're not giving them any choice in the matter. They have to do what you tell them to, just because you caught them in a Pokeball, and because of that Pokeball, they don't have any freedom of choice. And so, I feel like that really gets glossed over near the end of the game, and it never really gets fully resolved. Or at least I've never heard of any resolution to it.
Yes. See, here's the thing: is while while Team Rocket certainly has a lot of money, Team Plasma certainly has spent a lot of money because they were able to build this gigantic castle. Like, it is really big. And basically rise that out of the ground and pretty much use it for like a day. Or maybe a couple days. And
Yeah.
the fact that they have that much money means that they're getting a lot of money. Because I think that there would be a substantial opposition to the Pokemon League, and statistically some of those people are very rich, and so I would imagine that they have like a solid amount of donations coming in. It does seem like they have, like, in universe they would have like more grunts than like all the other teams combined or something like that, just because like there's always like 6 available to protect the public from being able to see their leaders.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like the Shadow Triad. Like, they have enough just random people who happen to be qualified, I guess, like to do like
Who have authorization.
ninja authorization or clearance or whatever. It could basically be ninjas. And
yeah, basically.
so
yeah, no, you're definitely right. Like, at least, I don't know, in my opinion, definitely Team Plasma seems like the team that is the most recruitable.
yeah.
Like, I hear Team Plasma's mantra, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good point.
You know what's interesting is when I first started to play Pokemon, I sort of explained it, and I don't know if I just like didn't explain it well enough or whatever. But Mama actually said, "Isn't that animal cruelty? Isn't that like basically animal abuse?" And so that's one more recruit.
Oh man, yeah.
It's gonna be my parents.
Oh my gosh.
And so that is definitely something that's I think it's only an evil team because it is a Pokemon game, because the point ultimately of the Pokemon games is become the champion. Like,
Yeah.
when in the story of Pokemon games, actually defeating these evil teams is secondary, and
Yeah,
which
like,
is interesting because every member of Team Plasma captures and forcibly battles with Pokemon.
yeah.
They don't
You're very
physically
good job
beat you
of
up.
following that.
So
Yeah. No, you're right.
So like, because they know that if they actually didn't have Pokemon, if they actually stood by what they believed, then somebody would come in and they would come in, use Earthquake. There goes their building. There goes their tremendously expensive castle. As it rose out of the ground, it just sinks right back into the ground.
Here's the thing about Team Plasma, though. Like, it's not like they're against, like, having Pokemon, like, as allies. Like, I think they're totally fine with that, as long as it's the Pokemon's choice to be with you.
Yep.
And not just something that they're forced into because you caught them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of, like, they definitely shouldn't be using Pokeballs.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I think they should, if they truly, you know, like, if they truly believed what they said, I think that they would still use Pokemon,
Yeah.
like, even in battles. I'd say that's justified. But something that I wanted to say
Mm-hmm.
is kind of akin to what you were saying. So like Pokemon, like in a couple words, is like about collecting, catching them and battling with them.
Yep. Gotta catch them all.
And so Pokemon Company isn't going to go out and say, "Hey, Team Plasma's right." That they can't do that because if they do that, then it's basically saying, "Yeah, all of your adventures are morally like in the wrong." Like they can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
And so they have to make Team Plasma look like an evil team.
Yeah.
Can't be just playing evil team music whenever they're on screen.
Yep.
Or making it look corrupt, which it definitely looks to be that way from what I've heard. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like definitely Team Plasma is the team that the only real team that was founded on a solid belief. I don't know. Well, I don't know anything about Team Flare though, so I could be wrong.
Well, Team Flare really just wants to make a more beautiful world, and they have a very narrow definition of beautiful.
Okay.
And they want to basically just like forcefully get rid of anyone and anything that does not comply with that.
Weird.
So it's another one of those good sounding goals, but they take it way too far and way too seriously.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much just what's going on with Team Flare.
That's definitely an interesting way to look at things. Like, I don't know. It definitely is akin to our Team Magma Aqua Galactic problem, which is like,
yep.
Yeah, you're like, I would like it too if the world was more beautiful, but like I don't know, what are some of the things that they did in order to accomplish that?
So this is where I sort of don't really know that much either, because even though I've played the games, first of all, I've only played one once, and it wasn't very good. Mostly they just made like a bunch of gadgets and stuff. It wasn't very well explained. I don't feel like it was.
Yeah.
They were really mostly just focused on like trying to take over legitimate things and just change them in their image. I think it's really the sort of awkward transition point between evil teams that are out there to ruin things and evil teams that are just sort of annoying, because after this we get Team Skull and Team Yell. And this is sort of like the transition where it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's the last like professionally organized evil team in terms of like there is like an objective structure, and more recent teams, like there is still a structure, but I feel like it's more nebulous. It's like it's like, well, they're the leader because they've proven their leadership, and not because they officially got the title of admin or whatever.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a lot less organized later on.
And so, and it's also where we start to get like the really common evil team roadblock, where they'll be like, well, you can come, join us or whatever for 5 million Pokédollars, which there's no way to have 5 million Pokédollars by the time they ask you for this.
Yeah. But what if you
and
did?
It's like a roadblock. There have been videos where they like hack in more Pokédollars and they actually try to join Team Flare, and it's like hard coded to like not let you. Like
Yeah.
you don't even get like a dialogue option where it's like yes or no. It's like you just press A, and it just automatically goes to what you don't want to. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what happens there,
Man.
and and they're at like the end of like one of those small transition rooms, I'll just call them, where like on one side is a town and on the other side is a route. You know, those buildings that have existed for since at least Generation 4.
Huh. Yeah.
And
they're just
there's
there to
even
block
some in
you, right?
Generation 1. And basically, they're at the end of one of those, just being a roadblock.
Okay.
Just another terrible roadblock.
Yeah.
I,
And
I don't know
Team
why.
Flare, right? But not Team Flare.
Yeah, I don't know why they're called Team Flare. Because that is automatically going to associate them with the fire type. It's like, okay, so their outfits are like red and orange. But that's kind of it. Like I would get it if their
Beautiful.
goal.
Their outfits are beautiful. You don't get
Yeah.
it.
That's what it is. I would get it if their goal was to like burn down Lumios or something. Like that would make them like an actually evil team. Like if they just if they wanted to burn down Lumios because it was
polluting the world.
polluting
It was not very,
or
it was
whatever.
making it not
Yeah,
beautiful.
it would have to be. Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah. Man. It's actually pretty easy to come up with those sorts of motivations, isn't it?
Yeah. What starts to happen really is that it goes more into the evil teams are sort of like the evil that they're doing is that they're slowing things down and manipulating. And and that's where we can sort of also go into like Team Skull, which is actually the least motivated. Their pretty much only goal is to mess with the Pokemon League, make things more difficult,
Huh.
and basically just be like a rowdy gang.
Yeah. So, like, what are their motivations?
They want to keep control of Po-Town, which they've taken over,
Okay.
and like to the extent that there's like graffiti all over, and if you go to the Pokemon Center, they control that too, and it's like $50 to get your Pokemon healed.
Oh, it's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, which I think is the only time that it actually costs you money to do that. It's not very much, but
Not very much for, like, a miracle cure.
yeah.
Huh. So,
Yeah,
like,
for-
basically what you're saying is that Team Skull is just a bunch of, like, gang members.
Yep.
They just have control of their one city, and they're satisfied with that.
Yep.
Wow.
And
Well,
they're just there to like harass the legitimate institutions. But this is also the first time where we see a non-team organization that is very corrupt, and it's also sort of like replaced the evil team as like conceptually.
yeah,
And-
it's
and of course that's the Aether
Aether
Foundation.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think maybe what's happened is at this point is that Pokemon has sort of realized that what the evil teams are doing could be considered legitimate business with illegal and dubious aspects. And so they just lean into it and they're like, all right, the Aether Foundation is legitimate, but what they do should not be acceptable as a corporate policy and should not be pursued.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, Yeah, and I mean, we probably shouldn't go into much detail about the Aether Foundation since it's
Right.
not exactly an evil team.
Yeah.
But okay, here's something that I've been thinking about lately. So like, a lot of the things in Generation 8 seem to come straight from Generation 7. So like,
That's true.
one of those things is Team Yell, who is, like I said, about Team Skull, literally just a bunch of gang members
Mm-hmm.
who don't really who act as roadblocks throughout the entire game,
Mm-hmm.
and don't really have a real purpose. And so, like, obviously, what their purpose is supposed to be is like they want to cheer on Marnie
Mm-hmm.
and make but like it's just
No, and
like,
that's
so vague. So like supposedly everything that Team Yell does is to make Marnie's chances better
Mm-hmm.
of like winning
Yep.
everything. But like so many questions come out of that. Like, then why are they like trying to steal people's bikes? And why are they just acting as roadblocks for you? Why are they such a problem for the main, like, for the player character? Like, there's just so many things that it's like it just doesn't really line up. Like, everything, I don't even think Team Yell does anything throughout the whole game to really help Marnie, like, to help her, because the only way to do that would be like actually rigging like the league and things like that, and they're
And
not doing any of that.
And the league is already rigged.
The league is already rigged. You can't rig it twice.
So, well, you could rig it in somebody else's favor instead of being in Leon's favor. It could be in Marnie's favor, and that could be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Team Yell just seems like the most, just so pointless.
It definitely is. Because basically what they do is you get rewarded for beating up their Pokemon and taking the money that comes as a result. You get rewarded for inventing a route that is actually already in a town. I think that in a way it's sort of come full circle all the way from Team Rocket.
Yeah.
They're just fooling around, stealing Pokemon. Then now we have Team Yell just sort of fooling around, and that's it.
Well, they did steal that one guy's bike though, or at least they tried to.
Yep. But Ash has stolen a bike.
Ooh. Wait. Are you telling me Ash is part of Team Yell? This is crazy. Oh my gosh. So many things make sense now. Wait, no, it's impossible. Because there's only one male model for Team Yell, and he is fat.
Yeah.
And Nash is not fat, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. And obviously, Ash would be really, really strong because given all the Pokemon that he's been able to carry over time.
Yeah.
So
he's the leader of Team Yell.
he's the secret leader.
He is
Could be.
Marty's biggest fan.
Could be.
Man,
And it just hasn't been
Marty
revealed
even
yet.
in the anime? I don't know if she is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we sort of covered them all by now.
Yeah.
So, I guess where do you stand like overall? Now that we've sort of thought about all of them.
Yeah. Well, so definitely a trend has been that the evil team has gone from the only threat. Like in the first games, Team Rocket was the only thing that you had was the only bad force throughout the entire game. where in future games it kind of went to, yeah, the team is still the leading thing that's like a problem, but there's other problems too. But so it kind of, I guess the evil team kind of loses power, and they kind of shoot away from the center of the story more and more until they become Team Yell, where they don't even have a purpose anymore.
I think that the evil teams are sort of like the opposite in terms of goals and concepts to the legendary Pokemon that they're trying to capture and control. So the legendary Pokemon go from, let's face it, not super powerful and
Okay.
don't have very specific goals like Mewtwo, to very powerful, like able to bend space, levels of power, or they have specific goals like preventing, like in Rayquaza's case, preventing Groudon and Kyogre from fighting.
Yeah.
And they become more of something that is necessary for you, the player, to come to control and to have as an ally. And then legendary Pokemon, just like the evil teams, become more of a common thing, and the evil teams sort of become more of just a common nuisance once again. So that's sort of a progression that I can see, is like they're sort of opposites in that regard.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you on that, because like I know every game Gen 4 and before, I think starting at Gen 5, you have to catch you have to catch the cover legendary. It's
That's
not
true.
optional anymore. So they kind of become a part of the story.
Yep.
Whereas before, you could literally just run away from Palkia, and it would be you could still keep going, like it was fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And I don't know, but at the same time though, I feel like they're kind of starting to go away from legendaries again, maybe, because in Sword and Shield you don't actually get Zacian or Zamazenta until post game.
Yeah, so maybe that could be a potential indicator for where we think they're gonna go with future evil teams. Maybe it's like a cycle where they're gonna go back towards the more serious type.
Yeah, I could definitely see them doing that.
Yeah, like they realize that they've sort of hit rock bottom in terms of how not evil they can make the evil teams, and so that the only place to go from there is up.
Or they could just cut them out entirely.
They could just cut them out and then make like the, I'm gonna say, corrupt organization go full evil team in the future.
Which, I mean, they basically already are at this point. Like, the evil teams themselves just seem like a bit of a non-factor.
Yeah. Another way to see it, potentially, is that over time, the player character that you play as has been more of a rogue, less of a conformist. And so, because you see everything from the player character's perspective, the institution is less of a reliably good source, and is perceived more and more as something which might need to be defeated. Be interesting is like if enough generations go by where you the player character are in a place or have a stance that is very similar to Team Plasma.
Yeah.
Where we're like anti-Pokemon League. and it's just like a gradual thing that
Yeah, that would be really
they
interesting.
they wouldn't let you notice if you looked at it like generation by generation, but maybe like a long term trend. Who knows?
Yeah.
They probably won't do that because I think Pokemon always wants their own image, the core aspects of the game to be seen
Yeah.
as good.
Yeah,
Um,
like I don't know. It could definitely like if you take the core aspects of the game at face value,
yeah,
like your mom said, like
yeah,
it's kind of messed up.
yeah,
So they definitely want to do their best to kind of hide that face
yeah,
value view.
yeah.
They don't really want people to look at Pokemon that way, so
Hmm.
they don't want another Team Plasma situation.
Right. And I mean the original point was to like basically be based on like bug catching and like collecting and but because they gave Pokemon such a wide range of intelligences, that's sort of where they come from, and that's why definitely see Team Plasma as like the the one that I would be most comfortable joining,
Yeah, yeah, me
with
too.
Team Magma in a close second.
Yeah,
Those are like the two that I would reasonably consider joining if like it under like conventional circumstances, like depending on where they are in their like ridiculousness.
mm,
um so yeah, that I don't know, is there another that you feel like I don't have any reason not to join Team Yell, but I don't have any reason to.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, okay. I feel like both Team Yell and Team Skull are kind of like cultural phenomenons.
that is true.
Like, so you have the entire city of Spikemuth, which is like
Yep.
everyone in it is Team Yell.
Yeah. Which is basically Po Town, but
Yeah.
literally not even as big. It's literally just like one warehouse.
Yeah, I know. But like, so basically, if you live in Spikemuth, like, you have to be Team Yell. So it's not even a choice at that
You just
point.
get indoctrinated from a very early age. That's
Yeah,
their
like,
only
you
source
just-
of
you
new
have
members.
to like Marnie. That doesn't make any sense. What the heck is wrong with Team Yell?
I don't know. Existing. Maybe that's their true evil. That's the true evil of Team Yell, is that they're so pointless, so meaningless, that existing by itself is evil for them.
Wow. Fair enough. There's so many flaws in the logic of Team Yell that I'm done thinking about them.
Hmm.
That's it for me. Too much. Too many plot contriving scenes.
Yep.
All right. Well, any
Their
other-
crime is bad writing, and their evil is existing, and that's I think where we can leave things.
You know, yeah. I like thinking about it that way.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that just about wraps it up today. Tower Duo out.
Okay, good episode.
Yeah, that was fun.
Um.
I've got practice in like 20 minutes. so,
Okay.
not
Then
gonna be able
you'll
to-
probably want to